Three, two, one. This is SHB Unfiltered podcast episode number. Chris?
16. Episode
So we're on
16
episode
today.
16, which means we have been streaming live for 16 consecutive days during lockdown as the world gets to grips with COVID-19. We are the only podcast featuring people who start podcasting every day, taking Q&A on Facebook. And these episodes are videoed, they're completely ad-lib, unprepared. Well, I think of topics and share them with other people here. And today, just myself and CJ. How's it going, bro?
All good today. All good. Tried to enjoy the sunshine as much as I could. It's a nice day today. How's it going for you?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been I've been enjoying the sunshine from the inside of my house, which isn't the best way to enjoy sunshine. And to be honest, I'm struggling a bit with my hair today because it's getting to a point where it's like this is like crunch time where like you kind of get trim just to shape up and control. Other problem is I normally trim my beard with a trimmer, and the battery on the trimmer ran out yesterday. And the charger is at my parents' house. And I can't go back right now. They're both in their 60s, and my uncle lives there, and he's in his 70s, and I don't want to give them the lurgies, and vice versa.
Put it back and leave it at the end of the drive, and then just drive past, pick it up.
Okay, yeah, because there's a couple of things I want to pick up from there that I've been meaning to, but just can't because, to be honest, it's not worth it at this stage. If there's a safe way to do it, I'll speak to them. But until then, here we are. I'm getting hairy and scruffier as the podcast goes on.
I need a haircut as well, man.
Dude, you're fine, man. Thing is, like, talking to Randa about it, and she offered to cut my hair and stuff, and I said, well, I haven't done it before. She goes, yeah, I cut my mom's hair and stuff, and trimmed my dad's. I was like, that's not the way it works, man. It's not the way it works. Yeah, it's all right if you cut female hair because it's long, so if you make like a small mistake, it's not going to make a difference, is it?
Well,
guys, well,
I'm sure that females will have quite a bit to say about it. They'll be like, no, you can tell. But yeah, if it's long and you cut it from here to here, at the end of the world. But when you're trying to do like short back in size, blend it in at the top, yeah, I would have. Imagine Charlie cutting my hair. No way. No way.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate sign of trust. And how are you doing, man? How are you feeling? What has, I say, been your challenges and successes over the past week? Seeing as we're here Sunday, I think this is the third weekend of lockdown as well. So how are things going for you, dude?
It's getting, well, it was always hard, but it's beginning to get to me now. I just want to go back to work. People say, oh, I wish I could just not work and stay at home. But now we're in that position, you realize how much you love getting up every morning, having that routine and going to work. It's been a struggle. No matter how much you try to keep a routine at home and you try to be disciplined, I'm going to get up at 8 in the morning, I'm going to have my shower, I'm going to get dressed, and I'm going to try and treat it as a normal working day. For me, at the moment, obviously, because there's not much work to do, it's very difficult. How are you finding it, though? I know in one of the early episodes, we spoke about like the newlywed stuff, and this is a bit of a weird situation for you to spend the first few weeks of your married life. But how are you getting on with it?
To be honest, it's actually been good so far, so good. We've got into kind of a routine around the house in terms of who does what. I'm a bit more better in the kitchen with the food and everything. So she does a bit more of the cleaning and stuff, and and we have times when we just chat, and then times when I'm working on like podcast and other stuff for a personal business, and she's currently writing a book as well that she's been intending to do for some time, but now
Cool.
It's the best time now, isn't it? So then we discuss things around the story. She gives me kind of profiles of the characters that she's going to put in. Then I bounce off ideas about the podcast with her. Say, for example, with the intro tune, saying, oh, what about this? What about this? Thinking about doing this, and
Give us any teaser.
No, it's all classified, man. It's all classified. But she's into like a kind of romantic thrillers and a fantasy and stuff. So expect a bit of that stuff. Yeah, that's been pretty good for us because we've been able to work on our individual things. But 1 minute. Do you want this? Okay. Yeah, and 1 minute, a bit of an interruption there. And where was I? Sorry. Yeah, like I said, we give each other privacy when we need it. Well, I guess I do, but yeah.
Something's going on with the microphone, Ruben. I don't know what it is.
I think it's the Wi-Fi stuff, but yeah. There's something I was going to say actually, and it was actually regarding the podcast. I know, yeah. She's going to kill me afterwards, but I should really tell her, but I'll tell her afterwards. How have you found it so far then? Because we've been doing this every day. We're kind of into the 3rd week. How have you found it?
Honestly, if I didn't have this every day, I'd be losing my mind. Honestly, I genuinely believe that. I'd be cracking up. I'd just be walking around the house. If I didn't have SHB and this to focus on now, I think I would be in a lot worse place. You know, it's hard enough as it is, but to have at least I've got this to focus on is something that we're both working on. Everyone at SHB is working on it as well. So it's cool. It keeps us all together as well, in a sense, even though it's over Zoom, but at least it keeps the continuity of the charity going. It also keeps us in touch. So there's been other stuff that we've had to sort out for the charity as well. And I think that it would have been very easy to take our foot off the gas if we didn't have this to focus on and it was a daily thing. You know, it keeps the momentum up as well.
Yeah, I think on top of that, it's actually encouraged us to put our foot on things a bit more and really focus on things for the charity. So with some of the meetings we've been having with people externally, and obviously this podcast, and then the conversations generated on the back of it, it's given me kind of different things to work on. I've been able to communicate with other people through comments and DMs and stuff, and meet a few more people, which has been pretty cool. One thing I probably haven't said actually, which would be a bit of an eye-opener, is, to be honest now, like yesterday was probably the first time I experienced a bit of fatigue regarding the podcast. So like you can kind of like do something every day and get momentum, and it's kind of like do it again and again and exciting. But yesterday was actually the first time like I was really pushed, and even afterwards I was really drained afterwards as well. I felt a bit of fatigue, and I was thinking about it this morning, like past the initial excitement of starting it when we did, and all the hype and everything and good feedback, it does take kind of like an extra layer of energy and resilience to carry on and to keep up. with the quality that you want to deliver and then step up on it. But it's kind of good that I kind of had that realization. So I spent quite a bit of the day just honing in on myself, spent a bit of time in the kitchen, just making mad stuff in there and really reflecting. And yeah, it's given me the confidence that what we're doing is actually enhancing us in a time where everyone else isn't really trying to step up. So we're going to come out of this in a better place, touch wood, than where we entered, because we are taking necessary steps and making most use of this time that we have right now. It's amazing how many things are continuing through Zoom. So I think we were talking earlier about Toastmasters. So there was a division contest today, and they actually did the whole thing over Zoom.
Really?
Yeah, so the division conference is like 8 hours long. They have workshops and guest speakers and the contest, but they did the entire thing over Zoom today.
How do you feel about that, Ruben? Do you feel like people can be properly judged through Zoom? Do you think it's a good enough way for people to be granted? Do you feel like it's a good enough platform to score people the same way as you would score them in person, in a room in front of all those people? Or how do you feel?
Probably not, because you don't have the tension and the kind of energy that you get from a room, and the nerves you get when you walk on the stage. And then even small things, like even now we're having issues with our broadband today. This might cut off for us and buffer. Imagine if you're doing speech of your life trying to get to the district or the world finals, because even the district finals, they might be over Zoom as well.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because that's kind of like the best of the country going up against each other, and they're doing it in over Zoom. Some may have their kids in the background and stuff, and because they're all stuck in their houses, right? They can't even get someone to take the kids out for the day.
I think it's hard for both the evaluator and the speaker, because for the speaker, I know when I've done any public speaking, I feed off the crowd. I like to make eye contact with the crowd. You know, I get something extra from the energy that I get from the crowd. And also from an evaluation point of view, when you can see someone's body language, they're walking up and down, they're owning the space, that all enhances the speech and the performance. Because ultimately it is a performance. I know it's a speech and it's a specific topic that they're talking about, but ultimately it is a performance. You're up there, it's almost like you're on stage, and it's like, imagine theatre being performed over Zoom. It's never going to have the same impact.
Yeah, completely agree with that. You definitely lose quite a lot of things that actually contribute towards an amazing public speech. So maybe it's a good thing I didn't take part this year. 2021, bro. 2021.
Yeah. Is your plan next year to come back and kill it?
Yeah, of course. That is the plan. But before then, got a lot of work to do here. And before we actually move on to today's like key topic surrounding stuttering, I just want to ask you if you had a chance to read the article I sent you on Carl Walker. Lockdown is making people do some mad things, man.
Yeah, I did read that. Seems like he called a couple of escorts round to his house, hosted a party of some sort. I don't think that the girls did him too much of a favour by posting stuff.
Mate, yeah, obviously, right? Yeah.
But did you hear about Jack Grealish as well? Jack Grealish was invited round to a friend's house, and he went also. And that wasn't too long ago. He had to put up.
Yeah, that was last week. And I think it's like really rich how afterwards, like when they give their statement, they apologize and they urge everyone to stay at home. Like, shut up, man.
Shut up.
I've been
You
at
were
home for
just
3 weeks.
right.
This guy just had the night of his life, and now he's acting like it's acting like a saint.
I know. What do you think about everyone talking about they should be taking pay cuts to save everyone in the club and all this kind of stuff? I know that a lot of players have already done it in Europe, but not too much has been mentioned in the Premier League yet, has it?
No, but there is a few problems. As in, there are a few problems with that, because you don't know the financial situation of some of these players. That they could be supporting, like in some cases, Drogba, for example, used to give so much of his money back to his village in Ivory Coast and pay for the hospital, pay for the schools, pay for the wages, and make everything tick. Do you remember that played for Portsmouth from Ecuador? What's his name now? This like back in like 2003. But he used to live in like a 2-bedroom flat while he was here, because he literally gave the majority of his money back to his hometown, and everything was funded through his pay pretty much. And he got them to a point where they could tick. And some of these guys, they've actually turned villages into like mini cities, like turn them into functional cities with infrastructure and everything. That's purely through their wages.
Yeah.
It should really be done on a case-by-case basis. And
I know that Mane gives a lot of his money away. He's big on charity as well.
Yeah, and the other thing is with taxes as well. So they're in that bracket where half the money gets taken away by tax anyway.
Yeah. But people are always going to say, okay, so if they're on 200 grand a week, I feel really sorry for them that they only clear 100 grand. You know, people are always going to say that, but you don't know what commitments they have. The more you earn, the more outgoings you tend to have. You don't know if they're paying everyone in their family's mortgages. You don't know what commitments they have. You don't know what direct debits they've got to various charities, and it might not suit them to be able to take that kind of pay cut. I know that Messi was the first. Was Messi the first to take the 70% pay cut?
I think it was. I can't remember exactly, but there was a bit of an issue there between him and Bartoli, the chairman of the board, because there's been a power struggle between them for the past season or two. And I think the board were making it seem as if the players were reluctant to take that cut in the press, and then eventually they put a statement out saying that they made the decision that players will take that cut. It was actually the players who told them, guys, we will make this cut, make it happen. And it was their delay with the admin processes that actually kind of meant that it dragged on a bit. And because it was just aired publicly really early on, it made it seem as if some people were not happy with the pay cut.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, isn't it? Because you just assume that they're like kind of normal people who they just earn a lot more, but they still spend on the same things. But players now are like their own brands and businesses. So they're going to have so many benches, and their money will be going into different pockets, and you don't know their situation.
Yeah, and also there's players that probably earn more or just as much from endorsements as they do from the clubs they play for. So just because they're getting a pay cut from their club, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to be getting their paycheck from their endorsement. So
exactly,
they'll still be all right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if their outgoings are almost the same as what they earn, then obviously players are not going to be prepared to take that pay cut because they need every penny they earn, no matter how much they earn. You know, we know from the standard level of the normal everyday person, if you earn 30 grand a year, chances are you need the whole 30 grand. If you get a new job for 60 grand, then your outgoings tend to increase. So now you need your whole 60 grand. You know, if you ask someone on 60 grand a year if they'd be prepared to take a pay cut to save the cleaner at their company, would they be prepared to do it? Would they be able to afford to do it? Perhaps not. But we think because you're a footballer and you earn thousands of pounds, you should.
One of their arguments was they should go after like everyone over a certain kind of like pay bracket. So instead of just targeting footballers, go after your executive board members of your FTSE 100 companies and CEOs, entrepreneurs and stuff, because why should they be treated any differently just because their money's tied up in tax havens? Some players in France who are in tax havens itself, where they didn't literally pay like tax, so they get to keep their entire salary packet. Yeah, anyway, we've got a few comments from the Facebook feed I just want to draw attention to. So we've got Leo saying that Leo had a good day. He had a call. He was doing some meditation. We might need to scroll up. All right. And he's been training and practicing speech. We've got Arthur Young saying, our football culture is all wrong. Kicking a ball and paying that amount of money, yet nurses on minimum wage are losing their lives because they're trying to help others, which is very, very true.
Yeah, that is very true.
Extremely true. But I will actually switch the argument back on Arthur to say, is it the player's fault that they're earning that amount of money?
That's what I was going to add, because players are offered that amount of money. They don't dictate how much they earn. They don't dictate that market. In the entertainment world, usually because they're entertaining thousands and millions of people around the world, usually they are going to get paid more. Anyone in the entertainment world, like whether you're a singer or NBA basketball players get paid the same. Usually people that are entertaining the masses earn more, and it's not their fault. That's just the way it is.
Cool. And I think that's the end of our comments so far. So now we're gonna crack on with the reason why we're here. We talk about a couple of issues regarding stuttering, as we always like to do on this podcast. So today, Chris, I thought it would be a good chance to reflect and maybe discuss situations from the past where you've not had the best experience and stuttering has caused you discomfort and disarray. Like if you have any stories you want to share, you can. And maybe also towards the end, give us kind of a point of view from hindsight. So if you had a chance to go back, would you do anything different? Go for it, dude.
When you say to me negative experiences with your stutter, two key situations, and not any specific situations, but two key situations come to mind. And that's usually when I'm at a function where I may not know many people, and I have to introduce Charlie, my girlfriend, to other people. In the past, that was hell for me. That used to bring all type of attention. I used to walk into the function, the party, the wedding, and I used to think, oh my God. Yeah, the dog's barking in the background. Sorry about that. I used to think, wow, like this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be the hardest thing ever. So that was one area that used to really bother me, and that used to really play on my mind, because you would go to introduce them, you would stumble and they'd be like, oh, have you forgot your girlfriend's name? Haha. Well, obviously not, mate. Obviously you can see something's going on here. And the other situation that used to always play on my mind was whenever I knew I was going to eat at a restaurant. Restaurants were always a struggle for me. I used to always fear ordering my food to a waiter, especially now. I come from a Greek family, like a massive family. There's always loads of us. So whenever we would go to a restaurant together, I would always be trying to strategically position myself on the table. So I would want to get the seat where I would be closest to the waiter when the waiter's taking the order. So if there was a table where the waiter wouldn't be able to get to me, I would never sit on that chair. I would always try to be at the edge of the table. The reason why is because I would always like to get the menu open, and I would like to point to what I want. Can I have one of those and one of those, and I'll have that, and to drink I'll have that, because I didn't want to say the words. So when you talk about bad experiences, those used to happen for me often, and they used to always haunt me after, and I used to be so scared about it before. If I knew I was going to a restaurant, from the moment I woke up, I was worried about it all day. I was thinking about it. How am I going to order? What am I going to order? Where we going? What type of food do they have? What is on their menu that I can stay? So those are the real feared situations that I had.
Do you have any specific story? So I am aware of the one with the football match, but do you have any kind of specific one that you remember, and then like looking back now, you just think, man, like if only did this, if only did that. Can you remember like one of those moments, and maybe like the kind of dynamics afterwards with the people around you? Did they try to avoid the topic afterwards? Did they feel discomfort as well? Like, how did it all play out?
Yeah, I remember once we went to TGI Fridays, me and my cousins, and my cousin's girlfriend had family over from New York, and I was late getting to the restaurant, and the only seat available was one that I could tell that the waiter wasn't going to bother walking near. So I already had that fear and that chest pain and that anxiety. And the waiter came, everyone had already ordered their food, because another strategy of mine would be to ask someone to order my food for me, make out that the waiter's too far away and I didn't want to call over people. So I would tell someone I was comfortable to tell. But in this situation, I walked in late, the waiter was already ready to take everyone's order. And as I was going through the menu, I wanted a burger, and I knew that cheeseburger was never going to come out. And the waiter was at the end of the table, at the other end of the table, and he wasn't making any effort to walk around the table. He was just going, you, then you, then you, from one spot. He wasn't moving. And as he's taking everyone's order, I'm like, oh no, like, what am I going to do? Anyway, it came to me, and everyone turned and looked at me. I felt like the spotlight was on me, and I stuttered like out of control. I was trying, and then the waiter started laughing, but not in a malicious way, in a nervous way. Like he was like, yeah, yeah, like, and he was trying to prompt me, and it just wasn't coming out. And then it got to the point that I had to point to what I wanted, and my cousin said it for me. And everyone on the table, you could see, just felt so awkward. Like they didn't know what to do with themselves. Like they didn't know where to look. They didn't know where to put themselves. And I felt quite bad for everyone, because, you know, it's quite...
That's hilarious.
It's an awkward situation. and man, that was a challenge. So what I did later on after is, I remember going to TGI's with my cousins, and I ordered everyone's food for them afterwards.
That's really good. That was good kind of a turnaround, because you kind of experienced that difficult situation. And in a strange way, I can understand why you'd feel sorry for them, because for you, this would have happened a couple of times before. So you're already used to that kind of experience taking place. But for them, that might be the first time or second time even that they've been put in that position. And to be honest, like, what do you say afterwards? Is it up to them to bring it up and speak to you about it?
No, they just left it. They just left it. It was awkward, you know. But yeah, how did they deal with that situation? How do they know what the right thing to do? I also felt sorry for the waiter, because the waiter was unsure. The waiter didn't really know what was going on. Imagine there was maybe 12 or 15 people at this table. So the waiter's going around to everyone. I was one of the last people. So everyone has ordered their food, no problem. And all of a sudden someone's, at the beginning, maybe he thought I was unsure and I was thinking about it and I was trying to style it out as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I was trying to like style it out until I thought the word was going to come out,
but there's only so long you can actually do that for, until you have to actually pick something to eat. Did you ever do like kind of pointing at the menu and stuff like that, just to make it a bit easier?
Yeah, but it was a long table, so I couldn't point. It was like, it just would have made me look.
That'd be hilarious.
So that's one time that I found it really difficult. Another time is when there's been times where I've avoided introducing Charlie by her name. I've just said, this is my girlfriend. And then they're like, okay, your girlfriend who? And then it would be like, Charlie would say, hi, I'm Charlie.
Chris, so we got some feedback on your stories from the Facebook comments. So Arthur's posted and said, no one knows what it's like having a stammer. It's us who feel the fear. Has society moved on regarding our dilemma? In brackets, nope. So what's the best way forward for the next generation of stutterers / stammerers? So what do you think is the best way forward? Do you think it's more education to family and friends, more more openness, that there doesn't have to be any shame regarding or embarrassment? Because in the end, like you said, you felt more bad for the people around you. Yeah. Like if they didn't really care about it, then it would have actually been a normal interaction for you, and you would have stuttered and stuff, and you could have moved on afterwards as a group. Yeah. Maybe that lack of knowledge of how to handle that situation is tricky, because everyone, like I could give maybe autism as an example, but everyone's aware of like kind of roughly what it is. And there's loads of people who do fundraising and stuff and charities, and there's things all over the news, and you hear stories about this person, oh, they're autistic and they've done this. But when you actually meet an autistic person, like generally, like not many people know what to do or how to communicate with them, even with so much awareness around it. So how do you think that we can learn from those like difficulties and maybe make things easier for people to know what to do with people who stutter?
The way we approach it will help people be able to deal with it. When looking back on that situation, and that situation happened often for me, and the way I used to deal with it all the time was all wrong. Because I was trying to hide it and I was trying to be fluent all the time, and I was ashamed of having a stutter and I wasn't accepting of it, I wasn't showing it. So, and when I wasn't showing it, the listener was unaware. So when you're taking ages to order your food and you're not being honest with the listener that you have a stutter, how do you expect them to gain more awareness of it? If stutterers are always constantly trying to hide it and constantly trying to be a version of themselves that's not authentic, how do you expect people or the masses to gain more of an understanding of what stuttering is?
Yeah, and that's precisely the problem. That is the paradox that we kind of have here, where if your kind of aim or focus when you speak is trying to hide the fact that you stutter, you're embarrassed by it, surely when it crops up, it's harder for the other person to understand or appreciate, or maybe they could turn against you and bully you for it if you feel embarrassed by it. But if you are able to proactively, like, I'm not saying like buy t-shirts and pom-poms and parade yourself as some kind of person who stutters, but just be kind of cool and casual about it, like disclose at the start of the conversation to say, look, sometimes when in my conversations or talks, I just say, by the way, I'm probably going to pause and block a bit. I've got a stutter, but just kind of give me a bit of time. And that normally just kills it straight away. And you can both move on with the conversation. Yeah. And that's all it takes, kind of, but it's actually a hard step for some people to do because they're so focused on hiding it. You're literally doing the opposite of what you've always been ingrained and trained to do for pretty much your entire life.
Yeah. And also because the people around you have got used to you acting like that, they don't feel like it's the right thing for them to do. Because what could have made it easier for me in that situation, and I know we shouldn't ask people to talk for us, but what could have been a big help is if the person sitting closest to him just said, like, 1 minute he's got a stutter, blah, blah, blah. But because they knew that I didn't like it and I wasn't open about it and I was always trying to hide it, they felt they had to hide it for me as well. So that's another thing. If you're not showing people around you that you're comfortable with it, that you haven't got an issue with showing that you have a stutter, then other people won't have an issue supporting you in that. See, regardless, I mean, afterwards, when I went and cancelled that situation, if you like, by ordering my cousin's food for them, their attitude was completely, not their attitude, but their whole behavior was completely different. Like when I was blocking in the first situation, I could see everyone on the table, they were looking down, they were unsure, they were awkward. But in the second, not the second time, but in the time that I cancelled and I'd been working on my speech, they were happy to look up. They were happy to look at the waiter. They were happy to look at me when I'm talking, even though I was using tools and techniques and advertising that I'm working on my speech and talking different to what they're used to hearing. Because I was being more open with it, the people I were with were more open about it, and the waiter had no issue with it. So it was like a completely different experience. And I wasn't fluent in the time that I went and ordered everyone's food, but I was open about it. And that made my tension drop a lot. And it made everyone around a lot more comfortable.
It's pretty mental, isn't it? Because you are with the same people and you're ordering food at a restaurant. So what has changed? Did you just transform as a person, or was it, as in that example, you were just a lot more transparent about yourself?
Yeah, I was a lot more transparent about who I was and the fact that I stutter. This is me. This is it. So if it's going to take me a little bit longer to order my food as it would the person on the next table, then that's just the way it is. And it's almost like the waiter has to accept that because of the way I'm acting. He knows I haven't got a problem with it, so there's no reason why he should have a problem with it.
I completely agree. And that's just another example that shows that it literally has to come from the person who stutters. You can't expect other people to just automatically like give you awareness and be prepared, because there's so many different charities for different things, so many unseen unseen ailments, unseen disabilities, impairments, neurodiversity, on so many different things going on. You cannot expect every single person to have appreciation for everything. So it literally has to be you. I'm sorry, but people always cry out for awareness, but the awareness has to come from you. You are the first point of awareness, and you have the ability to transform the environment that you're in by literally just being transparent about it.
Yeah.
We've got some, I was going to say, Chris, we've got some good stuff. Chris,
sorry,
we've got some good stuff on the Facebook feed. So Arthur says that it has to start with kids. So if you can get kids to be okay with their speech from a young age, then they essentially will not develop those self-esteem issues. And most importantly, I'm struggling to scroll up with this phrase, but apparently groups like us are really helpful, really good at kind of bringing positive awareness, and the work we're doing is actually contributing towards bringing more information, more knowledge to people who stutter and the people around them. So thank you very much for the kind words, guys. Sorry, Chris, before I really interrupt. What we're going to say, right?
Can't remember. Oh yeah, when we talk about raising awareness, I realized quite quickly that if only 1% of the population have a stutter or have stuttered at some point in their lives, that means that 99% of the population haven't got a stutter and haven't stuttered at any point in their life, right? So whereas people want to try and make the 99% aware before they want to become comfortable with it, it's like, but what are you actively doing in your day-to-day life to help create that awareness? If you're constantly hiding and avoiding and not advertising to people that you stutter, how do you expect people to become comfortable with it? When you're out and you're working on your speech, say, and you make contacts, there's a lot of people that know people that have stutters, have met people that have stutters, but then there's usually a few more that haven't, and they might not know anyone. So my attitude was, rather than trying to change the 99%, just work on me trying to advertise to everyone that I encounter to help raise awareness so I'm comfortable. And once I'm comfortable in raising awareness, I've now become comfortable, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. So essentially you're saying before you want kind of everyone else to accept you, you need to accept yourself for who you are.
Essentially, yeah.
One other thing is you can get bogged down in worrying about the population because like so many other people don't know anything about it. But if you can purely focus on the people around you and your own environment, so that could simply be maybe 5% of the population. So if you got like if you have a room of 100 people and 5 of them are your friends, is it really a priority to get acceptance from the entire room, or is it more important to focus on maybe educating and informing the 5 people in the room, the people closest to you, who you would spend the majority of your time with? So maybe key areas would be colleagues, peer group at university or school, and your friends and family. And that should really be your bread and butter. And there shouldn't be any excuse for them not to understand what you're doing. If they don't, when you get to a certain age, I kind of see it as more the responsibility of the person who stutters to actually kind of educate them. Because how can you expect so-and-so at Costa Coffee to give you time when you aren't able to openly talk about this to your brother or sister? And they have only met you for 10 seconds while you try to order a black Americano with a shot of vanilla and soy milk on the side. Because that's what I used to drink. And I used to have a bit of problem with the vanilla. But that's the bottom line. Kind of expect so much from strangers, but you're not willing to make the first step yourself with your friends and family.
Yeah, I agree. Even when you start to work on your speech initially, I meet a lot of people that they don't implement anything they've learned at home. And it's like, but that's the place where you should be doing it the most. That's where you should be practicing the most. Let them know, let the people closest to you know what you're working on. If you can't do it around people that you're most comfortable with, how do you ever think you're gonna implement this new way of speaking and working on your speech around people that you don't know? And also, to add to the point you made as well, I find that yes, it is important to be able to talk comfortably around the 5 people in the room that you're closest to, or the 5 people that you work with the majority of the time. But what I've noticed is you get a lot more respect from people when you're honest with them. When people know how you are, you get a lot more respect from them that you're open about it. And what you realize is a lot of people are dealing with a lot of their own stuff. And by you being able to be open about your problems, it then allows them to feel like they can be comfortable with you about their problems. And I've had a lot of great conversation with people that are fluent speakers, and they talk to me about anxiety that they have, and they ask me for advice on how to deal with anxiety, because they're asking, you have a stutter, but yet I see you making public speeches, and I've been to christenings where you've had to read out in front of the church and do this and that, and I would never be able to do that, and I don't have a stutter. How do you work on your anxiety? So you also get you build a better relationship with people when you're open and honest and your authentic self, because it gives them, they feel like they now have permission to be their true self to you.
Yeah, I've definitely had the same types of experiences, and being really kind of open and disclosing early, it allows you to kind of form like a true, more real connection with someone very early on. So if you're trying to build a professional relationship at work, if you go to a networking event, and if you're trying to build your network in whichever industry you work in, I've like straight away found that this immediately takes out this barrier. You stop talking about like crap like the weather and can't wait for the weekend, and you cut out all that small talk, and literally triggers some really interesting conversations. And you'd be surprised, like I'm fairly young, but this has enabled me to get a lot of FaceTime with very senior people purely because I've been able to kind of strike a chord with them early on in that conversation. And then it kind of leads on to a better kind of better exchange of stories, etc. And you can build your network as well. more effectively with kind of like proper relationships, because you actually get an insight into that person as opposed to just like an oral explanation of their CV. And I guess for you personally, like with your company, do you find that you get better vibes with candidates who are a bit more open about their perceived vulnerabilities or insecurities, or does that not happen often?
To be honest, because we work in temp staffing, is quite quick. That transaction is quite quick. But I would say that in my business life, my role is specifically the finance area. So everyone that I talk to do with the finance, like our banking relationship manager, our accountants, our factoring company relationship manager, all these different people, they know the real me. And I've got good relationships with them now compared to what I had when we first started the business. It's like worlds apart. You know, when we get on the phone, we can now have that small talk, and they're comfortable to have that small talk with me rather than getting a vibe off me that I can't wait to get off the phone. They now know the real me. And like you were saying, you don't just get a quick description of the person's CV when you're networking. You get to know the real them, but they're also getting to know the real you. And that's the most important thing for you. You're putting the real you across. And what I've found is that the real me is generally a lot better than the me trying to hide and get through conversations as quickly as possible. And because you got to think of it, imagine you walk up to a fluent person and you try to start a conversation and they're giving you one word answers. You're not really gonna connect with that person. You're probably gonna think they're rude. Now, just because you've got a stutter and you struggle, they don't know that. So that's the vibe that they're getting from you. So it's important to give off the right vibe. And that's what working on my speech has allowed me to do, give off that right vibe.
And even if I just realized, but even if you can't actually give off that vibe, just simply tell them, look, I've got a stutter and I'm just having a few problems at the moment speaking.
Yeah, but telling them that, he's giving that right vibe off.
Yeah.
I think, anyway.
But like, I mean, if you are in the moment really struggling with your speech and your actual vibes aren't transpiring the way you want them to, just drop that line to say, look, just give me some time, man, please. I've got a stutter. And then straight away you open up, and then it makes it easier to kind of speak, because they straight away understand, okay, this is what's going on. Because previously it may not be clear, especially if you're really good at hiding your stutter, but still struggle to get words out. Because people only maybe can identify the extremes of stuttering. So if they can see someone like physically having like mad blocks or like freezes and repetitive sounds, like what the definition says. But there's such a spectrum where people can not stutter on certain words or sentences for a long period of time, then come out with some mad blocks, and then they might be really good at avoiding words and just like jumping around, just saying crap, but it's fluent crap. So it's so important for you to really disclose so early on, and then you can like be yourself and say whatever you intended to, as opposed to like what you were able to. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But why is it sometimes the hardest thing to do, Chris?
A lot of people are going to be watching this and thinking that, yeah, it's a lot easier said than done, which it is. But I personally believe now I don't have a choice, because I know what the differences are in experiencing the situation one way compared to experiencing it the other way when you disclose. I remember when I got pulled up by the police once, and I got out of the car, and the first thing I said was, "I've got a speech problem." And I was like, why did I feel like it was okay to just say that? Because, you know, the reason why I did it is because I didn't want them to think that I was lying or not being genuine with anything that I said when they questioned me on whatever the reason was why they pulled me up. And then I was
You've
like,
been
why did I
watching too
try
much Power.
to huh?
You've been watching too much Power, isn't it? You
No,
can
this
imagine
is
it, you can imagine him in the room, just like identifying your weaknesses and seeing which
yeah,
words blocked on, and you must be lying on this, must be lying on that.
exactly. So I thought, why can't I put that into my everyday life? That would make me feel a lot better. You know, that would make me feel a lot better.
So you
Like,
think it would be better if you imagined being pulled over by the cops, like every time in a conversation?
no, what I'm saying is, if I found that a difficult situation, and to make me more comfortable in that difficult situation, I felt the need to disclose straight away. But when you're struggling, every situation is a difficult situation. So why do you not feel the need to disclose in those situations? Is it because I wanted the police to know I had a speech problem because I wanted to come across like I wasn't lying or being dishonest in anything that I said? But I also want everyone to think that I'm being honest and I'm being genuine with everything I said. So you have to find a way to transfer that into other areas of your life. There's no harm in just saying, listen, before we start, I do have a stutter, or I do have a speech impediment. Like, there's no harm in that at all. And the person actually appreciates it more. So now they know you're comfortable, they can now be comfortable.
Realistically then, if someone maybe is having like a tough time speaking with their manager at work or a colleague that is traditionally like very difficult, they've not had the best relationship with them, do you think this approach will work, or will it give that person a bit more of maybe the upper hand, and it can maybe use it against you at some point somehow? Because I know for a fact other people who started, they haven't had the best relationships with colleagues or bosses and stuff. So in those situations, what do you think is the best thing to do?
In those situations, it's the best thing to do is to get as much alone time with your manager, so that manager can understand who you are. Get as much time as you possibly can. I played basketball, and I used to always feel like I got overlooked by the coaches because I was the least vocal person on the team. And I used to see people getting picked and they were very vocal. And in football, especially Sunday league football, I see it happen a lot. There can be a player, he is useless. He is not bringing anything to the team, but because he's vocal, he talks more than what he can play, if you know what I mean.
Chris.
And as stutterers, we can't ever do that, and we don't get noticed. And maybe sometimes the manager will do something to you because he feels he can get away with it, and he won't do it to that person because that person will kick up a fuss because they're loud and they're vocal. And I feel like in the past, not so much recently, but in the past, I feel like I have been in that situation where I've been overlooked and someone else has been put in front of me because they know that I'm not going to challenge it and the other person will.
The Sunday League's the best because I swear, like there are like some divisions where every team has always got that that fat guy who plays the back and you just scream and stuff like they don't want it. They don't want it.
They don't want it at the back. They don't want to play along the back.
that old classic line, and they're sometimes the most awful players, but they're just really good at the air and have a big kick, and they can chat a bit. But yeah, I completely agree with that, because especially at work or those types of situations within sports teams, you want to kind of progress and get picked for the first team and go up the ranks, etc., get promoted. And if you are playing within yourself because you aren't able to express yourself vocally, then you will not be kind of succeeding in that environment. You will not be fulfilling your potential. And that can hurt. That's going to hurt people. It will hurt your self-esteem, and it will make you feel like you have to work maybe twice as much just to like stay on par with the people around you, because you have to overperform in other areas to stand out there, to make it less likely to get overlooked because of your lack of vocal skills.
Yeah, but also to add to that, what I also started to think is perhaps I'm coming across like I'm not interested. Perhaps I'm coming across as I don't really care. And if you're coming across like that to your manager at work or the manager of a Sunday League football team, you're quiet, you don't care, you're not trying to add anything to a team talk, or you don't really make your presence known at all, then they're going to be like, well, this person obviously wants it. This person wants to progress. He wants to do well in this job. He's letting me know he wants to learn. He wants to take on more responsibility. So why should I promote that person above the person that's completely silent and is only showing me as the manager like he's trying to hide and he's not interested?
Completely agree with that. Completely agree. And that's why we have said on this podcast that working on our speeches, like, it's so important. It's actually vital for our existence and our progress in life, purely because if you're working for someone, especially, working on your speech as someone who stutters shows that person that, hang on a minute, they have identified that there is something there that is drawing them back compared to the rest of their peer group or their team. And they have identified what they need to do, and they're prepared to put the work on it above and beyond what they are doing already. They're not just satisfied with being here and like walking and breathing. They actually want to elevate themselves. And working on your speech and propelling yourself into difficult situations can actually make you much better communicator than people around you, because quickly you realize that your fear of basic speaking situations will actually drop. As soon as you can grasp the principles and manage to experience some good kind of speaking situations, you will actually overtake the people around you. And the fun thing is, they'll be the ones coming up to you and asking you for help with like presentations and stuff. And I'm sure that's happened to you, Chris.
Yeah, it has. But I want to ask you, when you started to work at, who did you work for first? HSBC?
No, before was DB.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. DB. How did you make an impact? Because I just want to explain to people listening, you got that job before you felt like you had any real control over your speech, right?
Yeah, definitely. So at first I simply made a kind of point to to take control of my role first. So actually understand what was going on and really kind of like become like a specialist in what I was doing. That took like a while, maybe 10 months to 1 year maybe of kind of like going through everything and learning from other people, etc., and really putting the work in there. Then after I felt really comfortable in that role, that enabled me to actually communicate better, because when you're like unsure about a subject,
Yeah.
it can like make things a bit more awkward, because you know for a fact that when you're kind of speaking, you're worrying about all these things, and then you got to formulate as well. And if you're not sure what to formulate, and if you don't have that conviction in what you're saying, like it just it kills it. It kills it. And then if you're speaking to someone who the two of you know that they know so much more than you, they probably know the answers already, and they're asking you these questions, and you know that you don't have a full grasp on what you're advising them on, it can kill you, man. It can kill you. So I made a point to like learn, and then develop like stock answers if I wasn't sure. Like, this is what I think is the answer, or this is what I think you should do, but I'm gonna check with the manager and I'll come back to you, like that kind of thing. So I always try to put those lines in to cover myself when I was responding to queries or in conversations. So I'd kind of give them something, but then let them know that I didn't have the full answer or the full understanding. Then I'd go off and make sure that I was on the right lines. I'd get more understanding, ask questions, then build up my learning that way. And then just keep doing that, because if you don't, it's you can easily be kind of on the periphery for so long and you don't progress, you end up stagnated. So it's up to you to actually take control of your career and like do these types of things. And quickly people worked out that I had a speech impediment. So then I told them on the phone that I'm going to pause a bit and block. I've got a stutter. That's what it took. That's what it took.
Was your attitude yes, I have a speech problem, but you will know that I'm not incompetent. I'm more than competent to be doing my role.
Exactly.
Did you have that chip on your shoulder as you went in on your first day? Right, I've got a stutter, but I'm going to show these lot that I'm.
Without a doubt.
Deserve to be here.
Yeah, without a doubt, because essentially when you get to that point, you've already been through like 3 rounds of interviews and stuff. So you've already kind of like bigged yourself up to all these people. You can't like, walk in there and like think with your feet on the first day. And for me, the first day is always like your opportunity to set your stall and like give a strong impression, and then let that carry over. And yeah, like through time, end up doing workshops on stuttering in the workplace in front of my like department and all the other floors, so a few hundred people.
Well, how did they respond to that?
Oh, they loved it. They proper loved it. They even put it on the homepage of the website.
Yeah, this is what people need to hear.
Yeah.
People don't hear this enough about stutterers doing this at the workplace. Workplace is the most one of the most feared places.
Key, yeah. And after I did that, it literally changed everything. Because work became like a massive comfort zone. Because I had delivered this workshop to more than 100 people within a room, and they aired it on the global hotline with like WebEx, and it went to different countries and stuff. They stuck it on the homepage. They were loving it. And afterwards, I got like hugs from everyone, and like even now when I like post kind of some of my achievements with like Toastmasters or public speaking or stuttering on my LinkedIn page, the respondents are like those senior people who who saw me like do those workshops and put myself out there, they're the ones still engage and they still DM me and say, oh, like, great, what are you doing? Keep it up, keep it up. And that's really enhanced the network. It's really, really enhanced it.
I bet. I can only imagine. I saw the post. Well, I saw one of your recent posts on LinkedIn that you tagged me in regarding the podcast. And I saw a lot of the people that liked it, because obviously I'm getting notifications. So-and-so has liked it.
1 minute, Chris. The recording has stopped. We've had some technical difficulties. I'm very sorry, but the recording stopped halfway. But you didn't miss much because we were just jibber jabbering on about what we just talked about.
Yep.
Chris, I think this would be a good time to wrap it up and come to a natural conclusion. So I'm gonna say a few things just to summarize today's episode. What we've learned from our experiences is things could have been a lot better if people around us were aware of stuttering and the kind of pressures and dilemmas that we face. However, it's like, on hindsight, it was really up to us to actually tell them, especially the people close to us. You can't legislate for strangers that we sometimes come across on the street or at restaurants and cafes, but we have this opportunity to really show our friends and family that we are proactively working on our speech. We are honest about our speech. We aren't fluent. We are people who stutter. And if you can simply do that and be transparent, then people will respect you. There isn't any doubt. People will respect you. CJ, final thoughts?
Totally agree. It's up to us to spread awareness by the way we act and our attitude towards our own stutter. We can't be looking at everybody else helping us out all the time. We have to be the ones to put ourselves forward and take on speaking situations with being more comfortable about who we are, without trying to hide, without trying to cover up any stuttering, without trying to get through the conversation by just having the main aim is getting through the conversation without the listener knowing that we have a stutter. That's only going to put us in a bad place, and it's not fair on the listener and it's not fair on ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. You don't do yourself justice. You don't really show who you are and what you can do. And you maybe lose out on that job or that relationship or that networking opportunity. And bit by bit, you start to lose out on your life eventually. Yeah, Chris, let's wrap it up. So thank you very much, as always, for another daily podcast with SHB Unfiltered. Technical difficulties throughout. Yeah. But we did this whole thing on mobile hotspot. That works. So I'll have to check my provider if I have any more data left. Hopefully broadband's back tomorrow. Thank you very much, Chris. Any last words before we end this?
Thank you very much to everyone that tuned in, everyone that left comments. Really appreciate it. And do you want me to do it, Ruben, today?
Well, you've got to press the button, but we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully smooth. But Chris, press the button and do the thing that we normally do.
Remember, guys, stop holding back.